Hi there, this is Yoni from YBB Graphic Design, and today we're going to be learning all about the gradient tool. The gradient tool, by the way, is very much related to the gradient panel, and if you want to know a bit more about the gradient panel, I made a whole video about it. You can check it out right there or there. So let's get started. So to apply any gradient with the gradient tool, we'll select first the object and then go to the gradient tool right over there. We'll get this crosshair thing and you press once anywhere on the object and you'll get normally this default gradient of black and white. It could be also the last used gradient, so any of those. And then we'll see this bar here. This bar is what controls our gradient. We can see there's this circle here on the right and another circle on the left. Those are the color stops. So this circle is actually black. You can change the color to anything by simply double clicking on it or on this one or any color stop. And we get here either the swatch panel, that's all these colors from our swatch panel which we have in our document, or you can even mix using the color panel. You can just add or change any color you wish, or even using the eyedropper tool, you can sample anywhere from the screen. Now, for now, I'll just put this pink color and change this color to green or white. You can add more color stops, so you have to have at least 2 color stops because it's a gradient. That means it's going from one color to another. But you can add another color stop anywhere you want. You just hover over the bottom part of this line and you see there's this plus sign there. If you click once, you'll get a new stop. And once again, we can of course change it to any color we wish. You can move these around anywhere you want, so you can just hold on it by moving it and move it around. You can even move it across this side. So I just flip that over there and change it anywhere you want. If you think you have too many and you want to delete one, of course you can choose it and press backspace, or you can just drag it downwards. That will also remove it. And I'm sure you've noticed that we've got these diamond things above this line. This controls how drastic or how gradual the gradient color flow will go from the one color to the other. So by moving these diamonds, you can get a very drastic change. So this goes from red right to white. This is like a very sharp change, or you can get it to flow very smoothly. If you put it right in the center between these 2 color stops, then that'll be the smoothest option you've got. You can always go to the gradient panel from here or go to Windows and choose gradient. And here you've got also this color line. It's the same thing as this within this panel. So you can choose here this diamond part and make sure the location is exactly in the middle. You could of course choose any of these. So I'm choosing now this one and give it any location you want from there. So I can move it around from the panel itself. You can also give opacity to any color. So I can make this 0%. That means that this will be going from 100% color to 0% fill. If you go to the edge of the line, you can see when you hover over this line thing, whatever you'll call it, if you hover directly on the edge, you've got this square symbol and you see my icon of the cursor changes. That means I can actually hold it and drag it and change this bar. So I can make it very, very small and short, or I can make it big and vast and change the gradient bar accordingly. I can bring it within the object or take it out completely. If you hover, drop further from that square, so I'm hovering slightly after, not on the square, then you'll see the icon changes to this rotate tool thing, which I can rotate the gradient however I want. So I can rotate it any direction. As you can see, I've got this dotted line. That means it will just snap there. So I'm still rotating it, but it will snap there because the bar stays in the center of the object. If you're working with a line gradient like this one, you can also move around the bar. As you can see, I'm just pulling it and I'm moving the whole bar around. So I'm not changing the bar itself, I'm just moving it. I can move it completely off the object, or I can put it within the object. Let me just make it slightly smaller. So you can move the gradient bar either by holding on the line, so it's slightly higher than the bottom, because then that will just add another stop. But if you hover slightly higher, you can move it around anywhere. And you can also move it holding down the other side, not the square icon, the round icon, and I can also move it. Now if I want to rotate it, you can see it's on a slight angle. If I want to rotate it and to get exact angles, I can hold down shift while rotating and I'll keep it within 45-degree angles. So I can get very exact angles. Or if you want to get any other angles, you can go to your gradient panel, of course, and choose from here any angle you wish to give it. So you can see that you get any angle you want. So that's as far as straight linear gradient goes to. But there is another type of gradient, and that's the radial gradient. If you choose your gradient panel, you've got another option. Till now we were talking about the linear gradient. You've got another option of a radial gradient. If you press on that, you see all of a sudden your gradient changed to a circle. So now all my colors are changing in a circular form. I can move this. So you can change all the colors just as well, and it works in the same way as within the linear one. You can change how drastic it will be, change colors, add colors, and all of that sort. And of course you can rotate it just again. In this case, obviously rotating wouldn't make sense because it's a radial gradient and I'm just turning around the circle. But if you see here, we've got this option where I can actually make it into an oval. So I can turn this gradient to make it into an oval shape, and now obviously you can rotate it and this will make more sense. Here you can change also the size of it just as well. From there also you can change it, and you can move this gradient anywhere you want, so you can get some nice effects like that. If you are unhappy with the gradient you made, so you just want to recreate it, you can, anywhere you press, you can just press and stretch out. That'll create a new gradient. So you can just choose how big, how small, where to place it, and any of that. Anywhere you want, you can just create a new gradient. That'll of course erase the first one, but will create a new one in whichever place you place it. And that's both with a linear and a radial gradient. But in a linear gradient, you can also just click anywhere and that'll place the starting point. This is the starting point of the gradient. You can just move it around and you can just click anywhere to create a new starting point. So I'm just clicking once. You can even click outside the circle and that'll go as close as possible to the edge of the circle. You can see there. So you can get some cool, nice looking effect. If you're pleased with the gradient you created and you want to keep it, you can just select the object and go to your swatch panel. Let's just go to Windows and choose swatches. So normally you have to deselect the gradient tool because otherwise it wouldn't work. And then choose from this flat menu, new swatch, and then you've got your gradient there. Now I can give this any color and get back this beautiful swatch which I created. I see now I didn't keep the same options. I made it like this, but it just didn't keep that. But the same gradient idea at least is there, so it won't be as accurate as I thought, but at least it works somewhat. And that's basically that. You have another few more options there in the gradient panel. You can choose a free form gradient that will create points. So instead of being it on a line, you have points where you can change any of this and give it a free form gradient. You can move around these lines freely, or dots, sorry, move it around any way you wish, and delete by pressing backspace. And you can even make this circle bigger or smaller to see how much it will control. And you can add new spots by just clicking anywhere and that'll create a brand new dot. You can also choose from here lines, and that's very similar to the curvature tool where you just press and get a line. You can change any color here and get loads of different options and colors. So just as a last tip, if you've got quite a few shapes and you want to create a gradient to them, of course you can give them all a gradient. Let's just go to swatches. So I can give them all a gradient, or if you want to make the gradient flow to all of them, so we'll consider it like one shape. You can just stretch. As you can see, each one has its own gradient applied to it, but you can just stretch over all of them and get a gradient flowing over the whole thing. So now I'm affecting all of them. And that's as far as the gradient tool goes. Let's just go over it very quickly. You have here the gradient tool. You can select any object and apply it by just pressing once. Now apply either the default black and white or the last gradient used. You can change it by just dragging anywhere and pulling it across. You can add spots by hovering underneath the line and adding a spot. And of course, to change it, you double click on any spot and change from either colors or your swatch panel, or you can sample anywhere on the screen or even beyond the screen. Then of course you can change your gradient from a radial to a linear or the opposite by going to your gradient panel and choosing from here any options. You can rotate the gradient and move the diamonds to create a very drastic change or to create a very smooth and fine color change. So thank you so much for joining me on this video. I hope you gained something. If you did, please give a like and subscribe, and also feel free to share any of your comments, ideas, questions, or just anything you want to add or say at the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.